Hi and welcome to Fish Tank Diaries Series 3. This series, instead of getting professionals in to talk about their journey, we've decided to get them in and give some advice that we can all take away and utilise. Today we've got Andrew Ward from Reward I.T with us, who's going to give us some advice on some of the technical issues that a lot of people are currently experiencing now that we've all made, or a lot of us have made, a move from working in an office to working from home. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
So this has been a very drastic change for a lot of businesses. I know there's smaller companies where business owners already work from home or work remotely, but for a lot of businesses that have got, teams inside an office, making the move in a very short period of time to working from home must have, you must have seen a lot of headaches caused by that process. What has been the thing that customers have found the most difficult in your opinion?
I think, yeah, you're exactly right. I think it kind of sounds a bit obvious, but the main challenge has been moving an entire workforce from the office to not being in the office. And we've gone from a couple of months ago where perhaps 10 to 20% of our clients' user base were working remotely on a regular basis to nearly 100%. And that represents quite a big logistical challenge for the client in terms of moving equipment and having the right equipment. But also from an IT support perspective, it's been very difficult and it's taken quite a lot of work to go from 10 to 20% of people working remotely and having to have the IT infrastructure and facility to do that to nearly 100%. We've got a lot of larger customers that have on-premise servers or on-premise resources that they connect to from within the office. And you have to facilitate them being able to connect to those resources externally. And we've used remote access software, remote management software. We set up VPNs for people so that the server essentially thinks that they're still within the office. It's a private connection to the office. And in some cases where it's appropriate, we've used a remote desktop services environment where we've actually utilized server hardware, and members of staff are logging in to a virtual desktop essentially inside the office. And so it's been a challenge logistically for us, but it's also been a real change of the way some of our clients are working. The really nice thing from our perspective is, well, first of all, we've had some really nice feedback from people about what we've done and how the process has worked. But also in virtually all of the cases where we've moved people in wholesale to working remotely, our clients haven't paid anything extra for that service. We've managed to utilize things that they've either already got or that don't incur a cost, because I think the business landscape at the moment is pretty challenging as it is. So it's nice to be able to facilitate that without, in the vast majority of cases, without the client needing to pay any extra money.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, I suppose your clients must be extremely happy with you if you've been able to do all of that. So from an IT perspective, what sort of considerations should we be thinking about with regards to, our setup at home at the moment?
Yeah, I think really it falls into two categories. I think there's from the business's perspective, I think the most important thing is kind of, when I say business, I mean our client's business. I think it's about keeping productivity high and looking after their clients and all of that kind of stuff that comes in. But from an IT perspective, I think it falls into two categories. And the first one is around about security of data. And that's quite a broad term, but essentially it can be looked at in a very simple way. And that is about making sure that the good practice that you do in the office and the considerations that you take in the office, you're also taking at home. I think that there's a tendency sometimes, if you're working from home, I think it's a bit like if you normally go to work in a suit and you go into work on a Friday in jeans and a t-shirt, you approach the day with a different mentality. And I think it's difficult for members of staff to work from home and approach the day and approach the overall security of data and IT in the same way, because it is different. I mean, I'm sat in my lounge at the moment and it feels very different than being in the office. So I think from a data security perspective, I would say that's probably the most important thing from an IT support point of view. And I think that first and foremost, we need to make sure that users have got a decent antivirus running on the computer they're using at home. It isn't good enough just to be logged into a computer in the office with antivirus and using another computer to log into that machine. It's really important that every bit of kit that we're using in the chain is properly protected.
Yeah.
A really easy way of doing that is to have decent antivirus. But I think that and at home it's the same as in the office. The biggest cause of problems with data security, whether it's kind of malware or viruses being affected on the computer, or compromising of data somehow, or whatever it may be, I think the biggest issue is always that human element. But it's really important that you remember some kind of basic rules. And the first one that we always say to people is, if you get an email from someone that you don't know, don't click on the link or open the attachment. We saw loads earlier on in this week where there was a voicemail that was doing the rounds, and it was an email with a link to say, listen to your voicemail, click on this link. And when you click on the link, it takes you to an Office 365 sign-in page. And the hope is that people will sign in, and then whoever it is that sent that email has your Office 365 credentials. So for a lot of people that use Office 365, that means they've got unrestricted access to your email account, they've got unrestricted access to SharePoint and OneDrive. Potentially that's catastrophic for a business to give somebody that access. If someone was a potential client and they were going to email you, they wouldn't email you a web link. They would email you an email saying, hi, I'm really interested in your products and services, and give you their contact details so they could get in touch with you. So it's just about thinking about the likelihood of the kind of authenticity of the email. And I think the second thing is about staff welfare and I think IT's got a part to play from that. And working from home sounds great. I think everybody thinks working from home is going to be brilliant. It's like being on holiday, but the reality is it's not. And as I say, I'm it's a lovely sunny day today. I'm sat in my lounge. We're very busy. We've got stuff to do, but it presents challenges that you don't get in the office, the logistical challenges of it. But also, I think people will be lacking that kind of human contact with each other, and IT's got a part to play there. And we're very fortunate that this has happened now rather than 10 years ago, because video conferencing is great. We're talking now on Zoom, and it's had a little bit of bad press recently, but it's a decent product, and it's a really nice way to see other people's faces when you're sat in your lounge working by yourself. Microsoft Teams is another good product that people can use. A lot of our Office 365 clients have already got access to that, and that's something that we would encourage people to utilize. There has been some challenges the last couple of weeks with these video conferencing systems. Microsoft put out some figures yesterday, and they've had something like a 5,000% increase in traffic on Microsoft Teams. And the system hasn't been able to cope with it all the time, but it does work, and it's a really useful thing to do. We have regular staff meetings internally, and we use Zoom, and it works really well, and it's really nice to see each other. So I think that's a really nice, easy way that IT can help kind of fight that feeling of isolation that people might be having at home. I think that works really well. And I think that there's some ergonomic kind of considerations that people need to be aware of when they're using IT at home. I'm sat on a chair that isn't a normal office chair, but it's perfect for where I'm sitting. But I know that lots of people will be sitting at kitchen tables and maybe sitting on kind of bar stools, on breakfast bars, or even on the sofa. And it's really important that from an employee well-being perspective, we sit correctly. So back up straight, try not to slouch, keep your elbows and your arms outside when you're typing. And try and get your monitors level with your eyebrows. That really helps. It really helps strain on the neck, so you're not looking up or looking down when you're typing. So little things like that I think are important. And I think from a business owner's perspective, I think it's really important that they're making their staff aware of that, and also enabling where possible the staff to kind of fill in the gaps. For people using laptops at home, it could just be a simple case of putting the laptop on a cardboard box or a couple of books or something, just to raise it up a little bit so you're not kind of looking down at it. It makes a real difference if you're sat at home for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, kind of crouched over looking at your laptop. Just little things like that, I think.
So Andrew, you're talking about the phishing and viruses and people accessing company systems. On top of obviously being careful with emails and not clicking links, what other things can businesses be doing at the moment to better protect themselves?
Sure. I mean, I've mentioned a couple of times antivirus. That's the first thing. Every time someone asks me that question, my first response is always going to be antivirus. Get decent antivirus on there. A decent bit of antivirus software won't slow your computer down, and it should prompt you. It should give you a bit of a safety net. You can't install it and then rely on it completely, because it doesn't work like that. But it's definitely the first line of defense, and I can't stress that enough. It's really important. And even Mac users as well. Mac users need to be considering antivirus software on their machines. The other thing that a business can do is to look at where their data is stored. First of all, make sure they've got a backup. It's really important that the backups are still happening. All of our clients that have relocated from their office to their home environment, all of the backups are still running. It's all working in exactly the same way. We've made a couple of tweaks for people where access to the physical server is difficult, but it is really important that people are still backing up their data. But I think if we look at where, most businesses, virtually every business that uses computers, will have a place where their data is saved. So that might be a server, it might be an external hard drive, it might be a NAS drive, it might be a cloud-based system. Any decent solution should give you the ability to put permissions-based access on there. So person A can access, folder number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but they can't access numbers 7, 8, 9. If you have a system that doesn't allow you to do permission-based access, then that's something to consider, because I think that's really important as businesses grow. If you've got more than a couple of members of staff, that's really important. But let's assume that you have your data stored on a server or a cloud-based piece of software that will allow you to set permissions. It's really important those permissions are right. And by default, what we do is we restrict access to everybody for everything unless they specifically need it. And that's really important, that this isn't a time to relax data permission and data access. If you limit somebody's access, you limit the potential damage they can do to data. And that's really important. It's a really nice, easy way of stopping somebody having the ability to kind of completely ruin everybody's day just by not giving them access to everything.
I think that's a fantastic piece of advice, and I think a lot of business owners watching this should really heed that. Actually, that moves me on to my final point. At the beginning of this lockdown, you started doing a email newsletter that's going out every couple of weeks, didn't you, for your clients and for any of the followers through your social media channels. Is it possible for other people who may be watching this to get copies of that coming through to themselves?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if they could find us on Facebook for now. Actually, we're using this time to redesign our website. So if they wanted to search for Reward IT on Facebook and drop us a message, we'll definitely add them to our mailing list. It is geared towards our customers, but there's some useful stuff in there, and we've had some good feedback from the people that have opened it. And it's not salesy. It's not a sales activity. It's a kind of sort of info newsletter type thing. So yeah, definitely. If they wanted to send us a message via Facebook, or they could email info@reward-it-support.co.uk and just give us their email address and ask us to add them onto the mailing list. More than happy to do that.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you very much. Well, Andrew, it's been a pleasure having you today. Thank you so much for your advice. There's some really good stuff in there that I think people should go away and consider, certainly towards the risk of phishing and therefore people gaining access to their systems, because you made a point about people clicking on a link which would then take them through, say, their Office 365 account and then into the database where all of the company, so one person can basically let down an entire company. That's obviously a massive problem for businesses, especially as times are tough already. It's the last thing they need is anything like that. So some really good things in there to think about. So thank you very much. And I look forward to catching up again with you soon. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks very much. Take care.